Serious? What was something you saw you were definitely not supposed to see? My severance check. Apparently someone at the payroll company addressed it to me instead of HR, opened it at my desk and laughed, packed up my crap and left. So those reports you wanted at the end of the day, yo, I decided I didn't want to do them. Also thanks for the severance check. I found a letter between my parents back when my dad was in the army 10 years before I was born. When cleaning out the house, he was saying how they should get a divorce because it just wasn't seeming to work out. When I was 16 they did end up getting a divorce. I've never talked to them about it. If it makes you feel any better, there was a time my husband and I talked about divorce. We were long distance and hadn't seen each other in about 8 months. That crap will wear on you. Leaving work late one evening, I saw the HR director and CFO in a dark office shredding papers. No, that's not an euphemism. I didn't say anything but quietly walked on down the hall. 2 weeks later we were raided by the SEC and several people were charged with cooking the books. Back in 1997, I started work at a new job and took over the office of a salesman who had recently been fired. I was in IT, using the same computer that had been set up for sales. My first task was to install all the software I'd need. The computer hard drive was almost full, so I poked around and found a ton of folders filled with P. Went to my supervisor, and he said to delete it, warning me that the salesman had been fired for downloading P. Over the next few weeks, I kept finding secret P folders on the company's network. Not only had he downloaded enough P to max out his computer's HD, he had the network at about 90% capacity. When I was done deleting all the folders I could find, the server capacity was less than 50%. Dude was seriously addicted to P. Worked for a downtown metropolitan hotel for a long time, and I've seen a lot I wasn't supposed to see. Probably the worst was a kid with an old man. Checked this guy in at like 1 in the morning, not uncommon because people travel to different times, but he was alone. Like an hour later he asked for something like a towel or blanket. Anyways, dispatched our runner to deliver it. After the runner comes to me and says he thinks something is wrong because he caught a glimpse of someone and the old guy was trying hard to block the entrance. Being that we were supposed to take stuff like human trafficking seriously, I asked our maintenance to cut his power so we would get a call to come up to try and fix the problem. He doesn't. I go up with him to apologize for the inconvenience because the guy was also a tortilla member. Sure enough we hear a kid in the bathroom hiding. Tried to ask who the kid was and the old guy tried everything to shut us down from throwing his status around to bribing. Called the cops and let them deal with it. Just 2 days ago, at a community pool, a teenage couple who entered into the pool area went into the hot tub, stood up to stretch my legs and looked over to, well, sex in the hot tub. It was midday. I cringed pretty hard, but I laughed even harder when the neighborhood cop showed up. Hot tub sex is a bad idea. That water is filled with chemicals and no good for the vagina. I once arrived early to pick up a girl for a first date. She was renting a small garden apartment behind a bigger house. It was just after dusk and I walked around the corner. The sliding door was standing open and she was inside walking around, brushing her hair, wearing only her underwear. She did not see me, so I just walked back around that corner and waited another 10 minutes. When I walked round again she had a dress on. I never told her. I was downloading a game on my uncle's computer, so I was looking for the files to complete the setup and I clicked on a file called games. Few videos popped up, so the curious girl that I am, I clicked on one and there was it, a Chinese girl literally freaking her couch. That was my first P experience. I was 7 and my sister was 5. And it doesn't stop there. We decided to show our mom. I'll never forget the trauma on her face. Worst P folder name ever. When I was about 16, I was snooping in my parents' wardrobe. Found a diary written by my mother when she was 14. From the year 1970. Read some beautiful and brilliantly written entries about meeting and dating my dad, who was 16 at the time. Had to read a little between the lines in some slightly later entries as they were written with such flowery language. In one such entry, all of a sudden she discloses that she's had an abortion, performed by my grandfather, an anesthesiologist. She never told anyone. I was in elementary school playing basketball. I shot the ball but it ended up going over the fence. On the other side was someone's backyard. My teacher requested that after school I knock on the door of the house where the ball had landed to get it back, and so I did. I did not expect a woman wrapped in a towel with one of her nipples revealed to answer the door. I was shocked but carried on with my mission. For those wondering, she stated she did not have the ball. Back when I was a teenager, we hosted a New Zealander at our house for a couple weeks. Guy gets to our place after the flight, and about 10 minutes later I'm walking around my house to see where he's at. The door to his room is partially open, and the dude is laying face down on the bed and humping the ever-loving frick out of a pillow. I backed away slowly like Homer when he saw Apple cheating on his wife. I felt bad for the pillow. As a New Zealander, I apologize to you and the pillow. What the actual frick? My mom gave me an old laptop of hers when I was about 13 and I was scrolling through random pics she had left on it of my little brother's football games, and then boom, nudes of my mother. Years ago a colleague had an old smartphone that he brought in to give to another co-worker as theirs broke. The phone was sitting on the new owner's desk but she hadn't yet tried it out, as it was still charging after months of not being used. We were talking about how cool it was with the co-worker. Smartphones were not widespread yet, and I picked it up to see how it felt in my hand. I pressed a button and the first thing that I saw was a Google search for lump on anus. I quickly put the phone back down. This must have been the last thing he searched for when he last used it a long time ago, and forgot about it. When I was 11 I walked into my mum's bedroom and saw my mum and her husband doing a 69. We never spoke about it. Years later when I was 24 she walked into my bedroom and saw my BF naked with a boner. We never spoke about that either. Me and a friend snuck away from a house party at 2 AM once. We wanted to go to this local abbey. We were exploring the grounds and generally having a nice time when we see two cars stop nearby. Instinctively we hid in some bushes and witnessed what was clearly a large drug trade. We definitely were not supposed to see that. We waited for them to finish their business and then we headed back to the party. Happened to a friend of mine. She was dating this dude forever. They broke up and he moved out. She was devastated. About a month later she was cleaning out old stuff and found a receipt for a ring that he had bought for her and never given her. That's how she found out that he had once intended to propose, before he fell out of love with her. She was hurt pretty bad about that. That happened to me. I can tell you it isn't a lot of fun for the guy either. The day I returned that ring was not great. I found invitations to my big surprise 18th birthday just lying on the floor a few weeks before the event. I had to act surprised when the time came to walk through the door to the party, which I did. The only thing is, my twin brother also knew, which I didn't know at the time, and let's just say his acting skills are really bad. So we both found out in different ways about the surprise party but neither of us knew that we found out about it. So when I walked through the door for the surprise, I could tell from his reaction that he knew. I like how you're so confident that you sold it but could immediately tell that your brother was faking it. I bet he has a similar story about knowing you were faking. LOL twin powers. Saw my parents having sex. Scarred me for a good 4 years and I forgot about it until you decided to make me relive the pain. No one's forcing you to watch you mom and dad have sex again, buddy. As a kid I saw the scene from Poltergeist where the clown pulls the kid under the bed. My entire bedroom was filled with clown pictures and toys. I was upset. My mom decorated my room in clowns when I was little and thankfully my dad made her take it all down. They were all ultra creepy. A few years ago a girl asked to charge her phone off my laptop. For some reason she granted the laptop file access and whatever the macOS iPhone or import is called downloaded every single picture. Been 6 years since I used a Mac. This downloaded 400 pictures onto my hard drive without me learning about it until a week later or so. Many of them were sexually explicit Snapchats, mostly from guys. So I deleted everything and reformatted the hard drive to be safe. It was all unwanted, and the last thing I needed at 16 was to be harboring a bunch of nudes of my classmates. Back in the day, I would try to download anime episodes and clips off of P2P services. This was either days of Kazaa, before people widely recognized that P2P programs were hives of illegal P, and I'm one of the kids who was introduced to all sorts of disturbing stuff this way. The worst, though, was a small clip of a crying girl, late teens, 20 at the most. It was only about 10 seconds long, but at about the 6-second mark, about the time I was sighing and saying ugh. Of course this isn't Goku. Someone shot her in the head. I hadn't even noticed the gun at her temple until her skull was shred to pieces. Every once in a while, I remember that, and it makes me wonder who she was, who mourned her, and what sort of sick person films that. Happened when I was 7. I found the Tom and Jerry DVD I had lost in the back of a drawer. In celebration, I decided to watch it again. By the time my mother walked into the living room and saw me watching a threesome, I was already scarred for life. She took away the entire DVD collection. One time when I was around 9 years old, I woke up to take a leak in the middle of the night. I saw that the TV was still on in my parents' room through the tiny opening in their bedroom door. My bathroom's near my parents' room. I went to check up on them, and when I opened the door, my god, I can never erase what I saw. I saw my mom on the edge of the bed and my dad eating her out with all his might. I literally said, "Mama," and they didn't even hear me because they were so into it, so I just ran quickly back to my room. I remember the next morning, during breakfast, I asked my mom if there's any more juice left and she said, "There's no more. Your dad has the last cup of juice." And then my dad said, "You can drink the rest of it if you want." He offered his cup of juice to me and I looked at the rim of the cup and already felt sick to my stomach. I'm 20 now and I still can't believe I remember seeing that. TLDR. Saw my dad going to town on my mom in the middle of the night. I'm sorry for your mental scars, but this has me freaking rolling. It sounds like something straight out of a raunchy comedy. My supervisor plowing an operator in the butt in the work showers. He just looked at me, then looked back at dude's head and started going for broke. I left. None of us ever acted like it happened. I've worked in construction and never met an attractive operator or supervisor on a construction site, so I'm just imagining a couple of leathery old men going at it. I hate you for this. A guy taking a crap under a bridge. What really freaked me out is that he probably walked around the rest of the day smelling vaguely of crap. I still think about it sometimes. The salaries of everyone working at the company I was working at, it was a smaller, startup digital ad agency with about 60 employees total, and someone from HR was making copies of a document that listed everyone's salary, and left the original on the glass of the copier. I found it, and turned it back in, but not before I went through that list to see what everyone else made, and discovered that a couple new hires working the same position as me were making more than me. So after turning it in, I met with my manager and used my newfound knowledge to my advantage to successfully negotiate for a raise, along with a tacit promise that I wouldn't divulge what I knew to anyone else in the company. Happened to me one. I was bored, so was browsing through the network shares on a PC we used to store machine recipes. Found a spreadsheet with everyone's pay details, overtime, etc. So I emailed the IT guy and told him it probably should be at least passworded, and for my trouble I was threatened with being fired for hacking. Nice. A bit boring, but I found an engagement ring in a closet 6 months before my boyfriend popped the question. In those 6 months I kept going back to the closet to put the ring on my finger and admire it. Props to your boyfriend for being able to keep the ring for more than 6 months before proposing. The day I had the ring in my hand, it took everything within me to not pop the question on the spot anytime I saw my girlfriend. When I was a young teen I was once leaving my house to go do something in the neighborhood. As soon as I got out of the door I heard my parents at the garage. My mother seemed to be in her car, and my father was sitting down behind her car and pleading with her not to leave. My parents were divorcing, and I saw a few scenes that I wish I never had. Not really horrific, but seeing your parents in emotional pain can be rough. The code to open all the doors in my primary school at the time. A lot of power to open any locked door for an 8-year-old. My sister's nudes. Came across an old USB thumb drive and found screenshots of my sister nude video chatting. The pictures were dated around the time she was 15. I do conventions and corporate events for a living. Was once called into a room to fix a power cable. It was a meeting of a worldwide well-known house paint manufacturer. It was a closed-door meeting and I had to be let in to do my job quickly. They didn't stop talking as I did my work. We've pulled all the units from production and recalled all units on the shelves, but the ones still in transit cannot be recalled. They might be caught when they reach the sales floor if the retailers are still watching the recall, but it will have been weeks since we issued it. The guy who then responds to that states that they can prove they did their diligence in court with the recall and any units sold to consumers will be the retailer's fault. I never did get to hear what the recall was for, but they seemed pretty tense over it, legally speaking. So I doubt it was quality control. I felt like I had witnessed the mafia talking about a murder. A while back someone posted a video of a father singing to his baby in the NICU after an emergency C-section. The baby had been taken out early because the mom has died unexpectedly overnight. The baby died shortly after. After I watched that, I felt like I had intruded on someone's private moment with their child, and that I was not supposed to see that. I filter the links I click on a lot more carefully now. I hope that man has found a way to begin his healing. An email from my dad's mistress on his computer. Mentioned it to my mum and that's when she told me my dad had been having an affair for the past 7 years and I have a half sister because of it. Dude robbed a gas station. I was riding my bike in the back, saw him take off his mask and get in a car. We made eye contact. I turned my head and acted like I didn't see anything. I was 14 and on a walk with my mom. We were walking around a lake and decided to take a woodsy shortcut rather than having to walk out onto a state roads. The shortcut, like I said, is woodsy, but there's still some lake cabins and a dirt road back there. Anyways, we're going through on the dirt road and there is a car parked in the middle of it, not particularly close to any of the cabins. As we pass it by, we glance in the windows out of curiosity and see a 20-something girl and guy fricking in the back seat. When my mom realizes this, she quickly pushes me on ahead, which bummed me because I wanted to be a dong and tap on the window and wave hello with a big grin. Oh god, IDKY, but I just imagine this big dumb teenager just walk up and in the thickest country accent just say hello with this large dumb grin on his face. Hard drive failed on my dad's computer. The data recovery software did a pretty good job really, but I could have done without recovering nude and lingerie shots of the various women he's been banging behind my mother's back over the years. While my concern is more with things like financial details etc, rather than secret cheating photos, this is basically the answer to my friend's question as to why I dismantled my HDD and smashed the plate to dust before burning it. I most definitely was not supposed to see my sister's abortion paperwork, 20 years after, in a box in her old closet at the family home. Her business. I'll never ask her about it. I don't know what your sister's paperwork was like, but I had a miscarriage a few weeks ago and my paperwork only says complete abortion. No one except my husband knew I was pregnant, so no one knew I miscarried. But if anyone saw my paperwork they would think I had an abortion. The owner of the club where my sister worked took an armload of shotguns out of his truck. It was about 3 AM and I was parked behind the bar waiting for her. The reason I know he didn't mean anyone to see is because he covered them with a tarp and he gave a good long stare around when he got out. Shady sucker. He was up to every kind of no good. I literally scrunched down in my seat. As a gun owner, hunting rifles, shotguns. When I go out shooting and have even just one rifle or shotgun, I actually get anxiety about transporting in and out of my car. Gun safety is very important to me and I don't want people either knowing I own firearms or feeling unsafe that I own firearms. I'd rather just keep it to myself. Also agree with others that you never leave them in your car. I accidentally found someone's notice of performance improvement plan on our company open access SharePoint site. Went straight to my manager so they could quietly inform the manager of the person and have it removed. The person on the performance plan quickly became a top performer and closed the second biggest deal in the region not long after their manager was replaced. Sounds like it was an issue with his manager rather than his performance. I used to work in the basement of a pretty large hospital doing engineering work. They'll often cart dead bodies out of the hospital through the basement, so it's usually not a big deal. You just tend to try and ignore it. One time as I was finishing up a test in a pretty remote room, I walked out to an entire security detail escorting a body. I just got immediately shoved back into the room, so nothing really exciting happened, but I always wonder who that could have been. My third job I had, at 17, was at a pizza place. I had 2 managers, one male, one female, and they were both married to other people. Well, I went to hand in my drawer at the end of one shift and walked into the office, and there they were just making out with some heavy petting. Their spouses found out. They left their families, and then those 2 managers got married to each other. As far as I know, they're still together. I tend to have a way of finding things out that I'm not supposed to due to my inquisitive nature, but one that comes to mind was when I left my last job. My general manager wasn't exactly a warm willy person and was not pleased that I was leaving. I had to get something out of the manager's office and saw my name in an email on the desk. She had told the other 2 managers to wish me the best of luck in my future career and that I would be missed. I was shocked because she actually took the time to send that out to them. Never heard that from any of them, but seeing it showed that she actually cared. The most common reason people leave a job is they don't feel appreciated. If people like the work they do and the people they work with and feel they make a difference, they'll live with less pay. Corporations seldom understand this. On my way to work in the morning one day, and I'm on a train leaning up against a glass partition between 2 seats. The lady on the other side was doing the same, and as her mobile kept pinging with incoming messages, my attention was drawn to it, and because of the angle I could see the text exchange. To summarize, she offered services of the scatological nature, and the person on the other end was complimenting her on how her crap didn't stink when she curled one out on his chest. I definitely should not have seen that. You act like your crap don't stink. Well, I've been reliably informed that it doesn't. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.